We're joined on the phone by the star of American Digger, coming up this Wednesday night on SpikeTV, Ric Savage. Ric, good morning, sir.
Hey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm fantastic. How about you? I mean, it's got to be a whirlwind of excitement for you. I mean, we were just talking, and I mean, you live in kind of a small town, like a suburb of Richmond out there. Like, what was life like before the show, and now that you've got a show, how has life changed?
Well, at this point, before the show, life was kind of like anything else. It was normal, it was quiet, it was peaceful. Then the show came along, shook everything up, and here we are. Not much has changed yet. I have a feeling once the show airs, that's going to be a little bit different. But at this point, we're just, buckling the seatbelt, getting ready for the ride.
Well, there you go. American Digger is on this Wednesday. Not to be confused with Diggers, which is another show. But, Ric, you get lumped together with Diggers a lot by these groups like the Society for American Archaeology, who say you, quote, promote and glorify the looting and destruction of archaeological sites. And, in fact, there was a big article, not about you guys, but about the Diggers guys coming here to Montana. Their first episode was here in Montana, their premiere, and according to, like, our state archaeologists and stuff, they're calling a lot of stuff they did illegal, and saying that not only are they doing something wrong, they're breaking the law. Do you guys run into issues like this often?
Yeah, the big difference between what we do, I don't know the guys from Diggers. I know they're from up in your neck of the woods, but what we do, we only dig on private property with specific consent from the primary owner of the property. So we would never dig on any state, federal, county property because you run into so many yards of red tape, as these guys probably found out to their sorrow.
Yeah.
So if you stay with private property, if you only dig, where it's not owned by some kind of government entity, you don't run into hassles like that.
I see. So you're just very, very careful. And what sort of stuff have you found? I mean, what's some of the coolest stuff? And then what's the value of some of the stuff that you found?
I can't let out too much because obviously the shows haven't aired and they don't want us talking about some of the finds.
Maybe not even just...
Release, it states we found a cannon, which is Revolutionary War era. We found multiple weapons. We found swords, knives. Some of the stuff we found ranges all the way up into the $30,000 range.
Wow. How does this work? I mean, was this a business for you guys before the show came around?
Yeah, the business had started a couple of years ago, and then we just the show obviously pushed it over the top. We started it really as a hobby. Me and a couple of other diggers were looking for better ways to get into properties that ordinarily you couldn't get permission to dig on because the owner wasn't receptive to it. And, we just it morphed into a business when we saw that the response we got was pretty good.
That's awesome. And so how does it work if you say I've got some land here in Montana, I think there might be a bunch of Native American, arrowheads or something, and you search it, how does that work? Like, do we split the money if we find something good? Do you get the money and pay me a commission? I mean, how does that work as a landowner if you're finding stuff on my property?
Well, for Native American artifacts, the first thing you need to determine is there any kind of a burial ground? Is there any kind of a burial mound? Native American artifacts are kind of a tricky subject because there's been such a destruction of the Native American communities we ran into some from 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. Wow. And there was such a destruction of them. As a matter of fact, the university I went to, they plopped it right down in the middle of a settlement over the top of burial grounds and everything else. So first thing you got to do, Native American, make sure you're dealing with just dropped artifacts, arrowheads, that kind of thing, no burial grounds. And then when you get into it, if you're the property owner, when I come up to you, I'm going to give you a percentage of whatever I sell these artifacts for after I find them. So if I find a handful of arrowheads and I sell them for $100, I'm going to pay you a percentage of that $100 depending on what we agreed to when I showed up at your door.
Okay, excellent. That makes sense there for sure. I mean, do you feel ever like you're, the people that are coming out and saying, that you're looting and destructing? Like, I don't think of it that way. It's like, I mean, these are things that are buried. Like, somebody's going to find them at some point. Like, what? We can't archaeologically excavate the entire world. I mean, so I don't feel that way. But what do you? I mean, do you ever feel bad that maybe these bullets and things we're picking up were a part of some big battle that if looked at properly could give us some insight into history, and I just ruined it? Like, do you ever have feelings like that?
No, when you look at if you look at all the reference books used by archaeologists and diggers alike to determine if I find a United States Army belt buckle in the Civil War era, there are reference books out there that have pictures of thousands of these buckles that I can look at and determine when mine was made and what company made it. Those books are written by diggers, not archaeologists. And the same would go for Civil War jacket buttons, swords, knives, guns. All these books that collectors and archaeologists use together are written by diggers. So do I feel like I'm looting history? No. When people watch the show, they'll see everything we do is put in historical context. We tell you what was going on in the area. We tell you where the area is. We tell you what kind of artifacts we think we may find and the context of the artifacts after we find them.
That's cool.
And that's really all archaeology is putting artifacts into context.
Yeah, so the archaeologists are just pissed that you guys didn't have to go to school for it.
Essentially, at the end of the day, they're doing the same thing we are. Yeah. They don't want to call what they do treasure hunting, but we're all a bunch of grown men who love to find things in the ground. They do it on the public dole. They get money from grants or whatever to do their job, and their goal is to become an associate professor or get their tenure and to write papers that impress the people in their in their network. What we do, we found a way to enjoy history and make a living doing it too. We just do it in a different way.
Exactly.
I love archaeology. I just don't think that they have to be mutually exclusive.
To each his own, for sure. Well, if you're interested in this conversation or want to see what's buried around the world and what these people have hidden on their land, check out Rick on American Digger. It premieres this Wednesday night at 8 o'clock on Spike TV here in Billings, so check it out. Rick, been great talking to you, man, and I can't wait for the premiere of the show this week. Have a great morning.
Hey, thanks, Big J.
All right, see you, man.
The Big J Show. Weekday mornings from 6 till 10 on Billings' #1 hit music station, Hot 101.9.